James Ernest of the Grueling Truth Radio Network here with Josh Sneed of Cincy Shirts. Josh, what is Cincy Shirts?
Cincy Shirts is a website that is dedicated itself to preserving the history, present, and future of Cincinnati through apparel and now many other items that we did not foresee ever making, but happy to be doing it at this point. I'm a lifelong Cincinnati guy, and I always wanted to have a t-shirt site that was dedicated to a lot of the cool old logos that I remember from when I was growing up, of places and people and brands that evoke awesome memories of childhood and even college. And luckily we were able to start with that, and now it's grown into just a general love for the city, and we have 2 stores and we're about to open a 3rd, which is just crazy to even talk about.
That is awesome. So, in other words, the whole basis behind the company is just honoring Cincinnati?
Yeah. And the pride that comes along with it, and embracing, not only the city as a whole, but the intricacies of the different parts of town and what it means to be from those different parts of town, and the whole "what high school did you go to" culture that we seem to create here. We started as a funny t-shirt website back in 2005, and I was on the road full-time as a stand-up comic, and my business partner had dabbled in comedy and was a graduate of the Art Academy, and we just were trying to figure out a little project for us to work on that could keep me busy during the days that I had free, just sitting in hotel rooms, and sort of utilize his art skills and both of our entrepreneurial, desires. And so we decided we would start a funny t-shirt site called Look at Me Shirts, and the concept was that he and I would both come up with the ideas, he would make the designs, and then I would promote it while I was out on the road doing stand-up. And even from the beginning, we always wanted to have a special section of our, what would hopefully be a national appeal website dedicated to Cincinnati. And so we had various local jokes on the shirts. We did a play off of the Vanilla Ice Baby song, where he used to say A1A Beachfront Avenue. We had a shirt that said A1A Beachmont Avenue. And, Norwood Spring Break 2006 and stuff like that. And they were just silly little designs that we wanted to be able to sell locally. And it wasn't until we created a shirt that was it was a black shirt with white text, and all it said was, "Even God hates the Steelers." And that was the first time that we created a shirt that quote unquote went viral. It got local press, and people started coming down to our t-shirt shop in Dayton, Kentucky, asking to buy it. And we saw that, there was a lot of love, but also a lack of product for local themed apparel, other than your typical Reds and Bengals stuff that you could buy anywhere. And so, that's sort of how the idea for Cincy Shirts was born. But we just weren't able to execute it back then because we were screen printing, so we couldn't do these cool old logos for, Surf Cincinnati and Caddies and, places like that had all these colors in it, because we just didn't have the capability to make them. So it wasn't until about 2010 when we entered a partnership with someone who had a printer that could print full color directly onto the shirts that Cincy Shirts even became a possibility. But as soon as we had that access to that kind of technology, we immediately started work on Cincy Shirts. And at first it was all vintage stuff. It was just, logos of old brands and businesses businesses that aren't around anymore, restaurants, nightclubs, that sort of thing. And we threw up the site, and what we noticed was almost instantly it was doing better than the site that we'd been pouring our time and effort into for the last 5 years, because, you know, people would go to look at me shirts and they'd see a bunch of movie quote references and stuff like that, and they'd be like, oh, well, these are funny, but I really like this one. But, you know, if you had a website that was full of vintage Cincinnati designs and you showed that to someone from Cincinnati, they would go to the site and they were like, I want all of these. Mm-hmm. So we really started to build a fan base quickly because there was nothing out there like it. And so we would try to show up to as many local events as we could, you know, whether we were, you know, just passing out cards. You know, one of my favorite stories was on opening day, right after we launched. We took about 20 T-shirts and 1,000 postcards down to Fountain Square to pass out, to tell people about the site. And, of course, everybody wanted a free T-shirt. Those were gone in about 5 seconds. And no one wanted a postcard with the website on it. And so we were trying to figure out what we were going to do with all these postcards. So I said, let's just jump in the parade. So we waited for a little bit of a gap, and I acted like I was just crossing the street. But before I got to the other side, I just kind of turned and started walking through the street. And Darren did the same thing on the other side. And there were just hands everywhere trying to get whatever we were passing out. So we got rid of all of our postcards in a couple blocks.
Awesome! Yeah, and, you just have to create that buzz. That was a brilliant maneuver, joining the parade. So that was.
Well, I have zero shame, so it wasn't too big of a deal to me. But it did work, and we started we were very active on social media from the beginning, and we really wanted to create a community as much as sell shirts. So, you know, the goal of our Facebook page when we created it was not just here's a new shirt, but also, you know, important days in Cincinnati history and, you know, milestones from Reds players and Bengals players and people's birthdays. And, you know, if what really, I think, pushed us to another level was we kind of became known as the go-to place for viral designs. So we decided very early on that if something happened in a Reds game or a Bengals game or in the city, that, you know, something that everybody was talking about, we were going to have a shirt about it with, you know, as soon as possible, hopefully same day, within a couple hours of it happening. And we were able to do that, you know, and I think that when you have that kind of mindset of jumping into these sort of viral topics, it makes it a lot easier for people to want to share your content. Mm-hmm. And so we were really able to start growing our social media reach pretty fast. I mean, much faster than we had for Look at Me shirts. And, you know, whether it was Homer Bailey dropping an F-bomb in his post-game interview or Brian Price's rant or, you know, whatever it was, Brandon Phillips' butt tag, or Aroldis Chapman doing the somerset off the mound, you know, anything like that people were talking about, we made a shirt for, because we had this capability to print shirts on demand. So we weren't, you know, it used to be that if we had an idea for a design and we sold one, we had to print 24 of them just to make it, you know, cost effective to print the shirt. And then we had to hope we sold the other 23 and that we would have enough of the sizes that people want, because that would happen too. You know, we'd make a run of 24 shirts, and then all of a sudden we have every size but large, and the next shirt that gets ordered is a large. So now we got to reprint it again. And when you were able to print on demand, it really let us put up any idea that we came up with, because if we sold one, we printed one. And I think that helped us out tremendously, because, you know, you come up with these designs and you think, oh, this is going to sell a ton, and it doesn't. And then you come up with other designs that you're like, this is just for fun. Maybe people will share it, and it takes off. I mean, you just really, there's one thing I've learned is that you never know what people are going to take to when it comes to T-shirts and apparel. And so being able to print on demand has really let us, just take all of our brainstorming ideas and throw them against the wall, and if they stick, they stick, and if not, it doesn't hurt us.
So it sounds like a big game changer for you all. And then, of course, the big changes were going to Over the Rhine in 2014, where you helped kind of revitalize that area, I would say.
Well, that's kind of you to say that. I mean, I certainly hope we were a part of it. Vine Street was doing fine on its own, and we actually tried to find a place on Vine Street, and they wouldn't even show us spaces because another T-shirt company had gotten a space, and I guess they had some type of non-compete where no one else was allowed to be on the street selling T-shirts. But that opened the door for us to work with Urban Sites, who had a space on Main that was by itself, but it was kind of move-in ready, and they gave us a 3-month lease because it was new territory for us, and we didn't know how it was going to go. We just knew that, between Brouhaha and Taste of Cincinnati and Bunbury and the emails that we would get of how many people were asking us, where's your store? And we would always tell them, well, we're just an online site. We don't have a store. And we really thought that there was a need that we could serve around Christmas time specifically for last-minute gifts that people didn't have enough time for us to make it and ship it and get to them in time. So Urban Sites was kind enough to give us a 3-month lease, which was November, December, and January, just so we could see how it went. And we basically just picked some of our best-selling designs. We went onto Craigslist and found fixtures and stuff, shelving, from some places that had gone out of business. We got our first checkout counter was actually a counter from a bank in Lebanon. So it was like obnoxious giant counter in this tiny little store, but it was $50, and we drove up there and bought it, took it apart, got it through our door, and put it back together again. And we had all this hodgepodge of fixtures just to display the little bit of inventory that we had, and it did well enough that we thought, we should see what it's like to do a full year here, which was 2015, and that was the All-Star game, so we thought it'd be a good time to be downtown for any business. And then, FC comes along in 2016, and we were basically the first people to reach out to them and say, hey, could we do our thing, but for FC Cincinnati? We're not looking to really sell jerseys and scarves, but, that's your market. What if we just had some T-shirts to sell to the fans? And at that point, they hadn't even played a game, but I really liked how they were doing their marketing, and it seemed like it was going to be run the right way. And they were like, yeah, give it a try. And then obviously FC Cincinnati is probably the hottest thing in the city right now. So we became the go-to place for FC Cincinnati gear, and that helped us open our Hyde Park store, which was, again, crazy to think that we were opening a second brick and mortar when we put off for so long to open the first one. And then Fiona the Hippo was born last year, and changed the game for us again. So now we're opening our third store in Loveland, and I just need something big to happen this year so we can open up a fourth store next year.
Exactly. Just keep doing something great in Cincinnati. It sounds like that, like you said, those big events. Yeah, and it's so hard to predict what could be the big event, like you said, with Fiona. I mean, who would have ever thought Hippo would be the launching point for, business?
And she was really the first design that we had that wasn't really sports centered to go viral. You know, a lot of our stuff prior to all was centered around sports. You know, because it was that viral nature of, you know, people are talking about it. Let's make a shirt, and it seemed to always be something with sports, and you know, all the way up through FC Cincinnati. And it's just funny, like, looking back now, like, sports has always kind of been our through line of success within the brand, whether it was Look At Me shirts or Cincy shirts, because there's just such a love, you know, for not only current teams, but as well as, like, defunct teams. You know, we do a lot of shirts for defunct hockey teams, and we had a good thing going with the Cincinnati Royals logo until the Sacramento Kings shut that down. But sports has always been the through line for the company of being able to create something in the now and in the past that people are really into.
Exactly. The Ducks, the Commandos, the River Monsters, all
the Swords, the Silverbacks, all the way to Cincinnati Kids indoor soccer team. You know, and even stuff that isn't directly Cincinnati, but still finds a way. You know, we had 2 years in a row. We had a shirt go viral for Ohio State fans. The first year was when Michigan lost to Michigan State on that block punt at the end of the game, and they showed the picture of the Michigan kid in the stands with his hands on his head, and we were like, man, it would be so fun to troll Michigan. And initially it was going to be a Michigan State shirt, you know, a shirt that we sold to Michigan State fans to really rub it into Michigan. But then we noticed that the kid, when he had his hands like that, he looked like the O for when people spell out the OHIO. So we decided, how funny would it be if we sold this to Ohio State fans who just wanted to troll Michigan? You know, it was a game they weren't even a part of, but just the fact that Michigan lost in such a hilarious fashion, Ohio State fans loved it. Oh, so we used the kid as the O, and then it said HIO, and it was in Ohio State colors, and it went viral. I mean, it went viral nationally. We were in the USA Today and Bleacher Report and all kinds of stuff, and Sports Illustrated picked it up, and you know, stores in Columbus were calling us to be able to sell it up there, and ESPN ended up doing a segment that they aired both on College Game Day and Monday Night Football about that kid, and our shirt was part of the story.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it's incredible. And so we were like, man, how do we follow this up? Well, then the very next year, in 2016, I believe, Ohio State beats Michigan in a close game after a controversial fourth down call. And in the press conference, Jim Harbaugh was showing how close it was to being a first down, and he put his hands together, you know, showing like it was this close, but he looked like the H in OHIO. Mm-hmm. So we basically did version 2 of that shirt with Harbaugh as the H, and it went viral. And you know, it's so funny because sports are the one thing that people still watch live. You know, it's basically the only thing people still watch live. And nothing gets people talking on social media more than, like, crazy sports plays or controversial sports, you know, results. And so it's funny that our mindset of capturing that is still something that kind of fuels our company today.
Exactly, just the dedication and passion Cincinnati fans have for their sports. So tell us about some of the other products. Obviously, you got shirts, but hoodies, hats, cups, what other cool stuff like that?
Well, you know, for forever it was just shirts because we were online only, and we didn't, you know, that's all we had room for was our printer and some blank shirts to print on. And now that we have stores, it's let us really get into some areas that we never thought we'd be in. So, we went from just T-shirts and maybe an occasional hoodie to all different kinds of garments. So we have, baby onesies, youth shirts, long sleeve tees, V-necks, women's apparel, full zip hoodies, half zip hoodies, embroidered stuff. And that's just the wearable, like the apparel. We also got into leggings and hats, and hats range from dad hats to fitted hats to flat bills to, winter hats. And, we have drinkware now, so we have pint glasses, shot glasses, we have Tervis tumblers, we have vinyl stickers, magnets, jewelry,
oh my! So you have a wide
enamel pins. Our enamel pins are huge right now, and people love to collect the little pins. So we have, a lot of our popular designs and a lot of old logos. Our partnership with Christian Moorline, we have like all the really cool old beer logos. And it's crazy. FC Cincinnati has really opened the door for stuff because, literally, fans have never had a chance to buy things before. Whereas the Reds, you could go online and find 100 different places selling, flags and garbage cans and stuff like that. And we were the first, and I believe still the only ones to do those sort of items for FC Cincinnati. So, that's been really fun for us to be at the forefront of a brand that at its, from its inception can be like one of the, if not the go-to place to purchase gear and other items for fans of FC Cincinnati.
Like you were saying, with your new printer, you're able to print to order. Are customers able to make suggestions or have requests or send in ideals?
Yeah, so we always love when people send us ideas of shirts they'd like to see on the site, whether it's an old business or, something viral where they're like, here's my idea. We get them all the time. We love reading them, and we pay people when we use their ideas. So we always encourage people to send us ideas, but we also do a lot of custom job work for people. So businesses and individuals, whether they need it for their company or an event they're putting together, or a bachelorette party, whatever it is, like we handle those types of jobs all the time for people who just need stuff for their own company or their own purpose. We can have pretty much anything with a logo on it. We can have made for you, whether it's coffee mugs or stress balls or ink pens or whatever. And of course, we've got the apparel thing down pat as well. So anytime people have suggestions or needs, we always welcome them.
And what forms of payment do you accept?
Bitcoin. No, that's not true. Although it might be at some point. Who knows by the time people are listening to this. Just all the normal ones. Cash, check, all major credit cards, PayPal, Apple Pay, Amazon Pay. If it's a accepted form of currency somewhere, we accept it. We've even been known to use beer and milkshakes as forms of payment in little special instances or contests we have running.
Awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to bring up that Apple Pay and the Amazon Pay. I thought that was neat how, because I don't know, how many businesses do that nowadays. It might be very common, but I just thought that was cool how you're on the cutting edge with that.
Yeah, and that a lot of that credit goes to the website platform that we use, Shopify. It's one of the top, if not the top, retail e-commerce platforms in the country. So a lot of that stuff is integrated. When we first started, man, I think we paid $100 for somebody to build the most basic website ever. And fast forward today, there's so many options, but we run on Shopify, and it's great. They have a lot of plugins and very friendly for all aspects of our business, both online and store.
So if fans are wanting to stay up to date with you all, how do they sign up for your newsletter?
Just go to CincyShirts.com, and if you aren't already signed up, a little window will pop up right when you get there asking if you'd like to join, and we send out coupons all the time. We have really good sales for people who are part of our newsletter list. And then, we always encourage people to follow us on all the social media, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. We're very active on a daily basis on all of those, so any or all of them that you're on, please find us. Just look for Cincy Shirts, and we share our sale information on there as well. And then if you're in one of our stores, you can sign up for our rewards program. It's free. All we need is your phone number, and we let people know about sales through that as well. You don't get bombarded with texts or anything, but it's a great way to earn free stuff and to know when we have some cool sales. And the other thing is, if people are listening, which I'm sure they are, that aren't in Cincinnati or maybe are but aren't from here, the success of Cincy Shirts led us to figure out that this concept could probably work in a lot of other cities, but we didn't want to create a website for every other city, so we launched a site last year called oldschoolshirts.com. And it's basically the same concept that we used when we started Cincy Shirts, but you can click a list of several cities. I think we have about 15 on there already, and see vintage designs from, Philly and St. Louis and Indianapolis and Milwaukee and places like that. So if you want to see some cool vintage stuff from other cities, you can check out oldschoolshirts.com, and that's us too.
Sounds great. It sounds like fans will be checking those out and wearing all the cool stuff for summer.
I hope so, man.
Excellent.